So in the world of AI, there's this rule that pretty much everyone knows. You can have amazing performance, you can have blazing speed, or you can have a low price, but you can never, ever have all three at once. Well, today we're looking at a new model. It's called Miniax M2, and it claims to have completely shattered that rule. This thing is one of the fastest open source models ever built, especially for coding and for AI agents, and honestly, its secret might just change the game for how we all build with AI.
Yeah, if you're a developer or you run a company that uses AI, you know this problem intimately. It's often called the impossible triangle. Basically, anytime you're building with AI, you're forced to make a really tough choice. Do you go for the model that's just incredibly powerful? Or the one that's lightning fast? Or, maybe, the one that's actually affordable? The catch has always been, you can only pick two.
Let's break that down. Say you want top performance and high speed. Okay, get ready to open your wallet because it's going to be expensive. What if you want great performance, but you also want a low price? Well, I hope you're patient because you're going to be staring at a loading screen for a while. It's going to be slow. And of course, if you go for speed and affordability, you got to sacrifice performance. The model just won't be smart enough to handle the really complex stuff. This whole trilemma has been a massive roadblock for innovation for a long time.
Right, so that's the setup, but what if you could actually break that triangle? I mean, what if a model could really deliver on all three fronts? Well, that is the exact mission behind a brand new contender that's been getting a whole lot of attention lately.
Okay, let's meet it. This is Miniax M2. It's the latest flagship model from a company called Minimax. Now, what's really important here is that it's open source and it's been built from the ground up to be amazing at two things: coding and what people are calling agentic workflows. You know those tasks where the AI isn't just a tool, but acts more like an autonomous teammate?
And to really get what M2 is all about, you kind of have to understand the company's core mission. Their whole thing is intelligence with everyone. So they're not just trying to build the most powerful AI in a lab somewhere. They are fundamentally focused on making this stuff accessible. And that really explains why they're so committed to building a tool that's not just powerful, but also practical and, you guessed it, affordable for developers all over the world.
All right, so let's get down to the brass tacks. Let's talk about the claims. First up, speed. Minimax says M2 runs at twice the speed of a major competitor, Claude Sonnet. Now that is a huge leap in efficiency, especially if you're building anything that needs to respond in real time.
And, okay, here's the other side of that coin, the cost. They claim it hits that incredible speed while running at just, get this, 8% of the cost of that same competitor. No, that's not a typo. It is faster, and it is dramatically cheaper. So the million-dollar question is, how on earth are they pulling this off?
Well, the answer lies in a really clever architecture. It's all about that old saying, working smarter, not just harder. So M2 is built on something called a mixture of experts system, or MO for short. Now, think of it like this. Instead of one single giant brain that has to try and solve every single problem you throw at it, an MOE model is actually made up of lots of smaller, specialized expert models. When a request comes in, the system is smart enough to just route it to the handful of experts that are actually best suited for that specific task.
And to really appreciate how this works, you just have to look at the scale. The total size of the M2 model is a massive 230 billion parameters. I mean, that gives it the raw knowledge of a truly top-tier large language model. But, and this is the really cool part, it doesn't actually use all of that power for every single query. Because when it's actually running a task, that's a process called inference. It only activates about 10 billion of those parameters. And that right there is the secret sauce. You get the massive knowledge base of a giant model, but with the running cost and the speed of a much smaller one. It's kind of the best of both worlds.
You know, the creators themselves use a perfect analogy for this. Think about it. You wouldn't get your entire company together, finance, HR, marketing, everybody, just to fix one software bug, right? No way. You'd call in the specialist engineering team. And that's exactly what M2 is doing. It is just incredibly efficient.
Okay, so the theory is brilliant, right? You get big model power with small model efficiency. But does it actually hold up in the real world? Let's take a look at the proof.
Well, for starters, on the artificial analysis global rankings, Minimax M2 is currently sitting at number 1. That's right, number 1 among all open source models for overall intelligence. And it's not just good at one thing, it scores incredibly well across a whole bunch of disciplines. Everything from math and science to, of course, coding and using tools.
And if we dig into the specifics, the numbers are seriously impressive. On the software engineering benchmark, it's scoring on par with heavyweights like GPT 4.5. Then you look at the terminal benchmark, which basically tests if it can execute and fix code in a real command line environment, and it pulls a really strong 46.3. And on BrowseComp, it shows this huge jump over other open models in its ability to actually search the web and pull back information. Pretty solid.
But hey, benchmarks are one thing, right? Let's look at a real-world demonstration of what these agentic capabilities actually mean. So here's the task they gave it. Build a fully functional game of Tetris from a single simple prompt.
And this is where it gets absolutely fascinating. The M2 agent didn't just dump a wall of code. No. First, it created a clear game plan, laying out exactly what it was going to do. Then, it executed that plan, writing all the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But here's the really critical part. It then created its own 11-point testing plan to check its own work. And guess what? It found bugs, it recognized its own failures, and then it automatically debugged and fixed the code all by itself. I mean, it thinks, it plans, it executes, and it self-corrects. That's the whole package.
Okay, so what's the bigger picture here? I mean, a fast, cheap, open-source model that can build a game of Tetris on its own is, well, it's really cool. But the implications here go so much further than that. You see, the team at Minimax realized something from using AI inside their own company. They saw that the next big step isn't just about making smarter chatbots, it's about production power. They're starting to see these AI agents as a whole new kind of workforce, digital teammates that can actually reason, plan, and get complex jobs done all on their own.
And that is why breaking that impossible triangle is so incredibly important. A model like M2 makes this new agent era accessible to pretty much everyone. All of a sudden, developers don't have to choose between a smart agent, a fast agent, or an affordable agent. They can finally have all three. And that could unleash an absolute wave of innovation, letting people create these digital teammates for all kinds of tasks imaginable. So at the end of the day, this technology completely lowers the barrier to entry for building truly powerful autonomous AI. It really shifts the entire conversation from what's even possible to, okay, what should we build now? And that leaves us with one final big question to think about. When the tools to create a really capable digital teammate are in everyone's hands, what will you create?